How did the King of Scotland, on a small horse and armed with only an axe, crush England's mightiest knights? The answer lies in the blood-soaked fields of Bannockburn. To understand why Bannockburn explodes the way it does, you have to roll the clock back to the late 13th century to a Scotland that has a crown but no clear head to wear it. In 1286, King Alexander III rides into the night and never rides back. With his sudden death, the realm loses a steady hand. His only heir, Margaret, Maid of Norway, is a child. In 1290, she dies en route, and Scotland slides into a succession crisis. The great lords, Bruce, Comyn, Balliol jostle. They call for an arbiter, and Edward of England, the Hammer of the Scots, hears opportunity. He backs John Balliol, but treats him as a vassal. Courts are overruled. Taxes are demanded. Scotland's dignity is stripped in legal phrases and iron mail. Discontent turns to revolt. In 1297, two men light the fuse, William Wallace and Andrew Moray. They shock Europe by slamming the English at Stirling Bridge, using brain, bridge, and bottleneck to crush numbers. The roar fades a year later at Falkirk, 1298. English longbows do their grim work. Wallace is hunted, captured, executed in 1305, hanged, drawn, quartered. The message is cruelty. The memory becomes fuel. Among those who watch and learn stands Robert Bruce, grandson of a claimant, calculating, proud, decisive. In 1306, after a fatal clash with John Comyn in a church at Dumfries, Bruce seizes the crown. Excommunication follows, English pursuit follows, but so does a campaign of endurance and invention. Robert the Bruce does not meet England's strength where England is strongest. He fights a different war. Castles he can't hold. He slights, pulls down their usefulness so the enemy can't use them. He burns what must be burned, strips the land before the invader's path, and turns Scotland into a maze of ambushes and night raids. He avoids the decisive battle until he chooses the ground where decisive means advantage. By 1314, the ledger of small wins has become a campaign. Bruce's brother, Edward. Bruce pushes the siege of Stirling Castle, the hinge of the realm. A truce fixes a fuse. If not relieved by midsummer 1314, the garrison will surrender. A clock starts ticking, and the tick echoes all the way to Westminster. Edward II inherits his father's obsession, but not his steel. Still, he cannot let Stirling fall. He calls the banners. The host that grinds north is vast 15,000 warrants by many reckonings, knights in plate, ranks of billmen, and archers with the long, bitter reach of the English longbow. Wagons creak, standards snap. Villages empty at the sight. Yet the farther the English roll, the less they eat. Bruce's scorched earth policy starves the road ahead. Morale withers as supply lines stretch. And the ground ahead, Bannockburn. The marshy burn and chopped woodland south of Stirling has been chosen not by Edward's council, but by Scotland's king. On June 22nd, the armies finally face each other across the scrub and the stream. In the Scottish camp, veterans who've lived off roots and resolve. In the English camp, a sea of tents and confidence. Priests move through the Scottish ranks with blessings. Noble boasts drift over the English fires. Then, legend steps out of mist and becomes fact. Robert the Bruce, lightly armored, rides forward to mark the ground. Sir Henry de Bohun, nephew to the Earl of Hereford, sees a king alone. He lowers his lance and charges, dreaming of ending a war with one strike. At the last heartbeat, Bruce slips his palfrey aside, rises in the stirrups, and brings his battle axe down with surgical fury. The helmet splits, the knight falls, the axe shatters, June 23rd, dawn. The Scots move first, not with reckless charges but with geometry. Dense formations of spearmen schiltrons roll out from cover like moving fortresses of pikes. Each looks like a giant iron hedgehog bristling with death. Edward orders forward his pride, the armored cavalry. Hooves thunder, lances glitter. The charge slams into the wall of spears and breaks. Horses rear, scream, and crash back through their own ranks. Riders tumble. The press behind tramples the fallen. At the fords, other English units try to turn the Scottish flank. But the burn is a trap narrow, slick, and unforgiving. Hemmed by water on one side and spears on the other. The outflank becomes a drowning. By dusk, the English are shocked. The day they expected to use as a broom has instead used them as straw. The Scots withdraw in order, spirits high. In Edward's pavilion, the laughter of the night before sounds thinner. June 24, the morning that will write lines in school books. Before the push, the Scots kneel in prayer. From the English view, it looks like fear. It isn't. It's calibration. When they rise, the forest of spears rises with them. Edward wants Waite to do the thinking. He orders a general advance, but Waite has enemies: mud, marsh, and the math of space. The field narrows. Archers can't find clean lanes because cavalry clots the ground. And Bruce does the unthinkable. He orders the schiltrons forward. The hedgehogs don't just hold, they hunt. Step by step, foot by foot, the Scottish points press into English mail. Horses balk at spearheads. Knights are dragged down and finished in the mud. The English longbow, usually the terror of Europe, never gets the angle. Panic is not a moment. It is a chain reaction. It starts at the flanks, spreads to the center, and then the whole line begins to unmake itself. Then comes the beat that breaks morale's back. Down the nearby slopes rush camp followers, cooks, grooms, drivers, waving makeshift banners. To exhausted English eyes, they look like fresh reserves. A rumor becomes a vision becomes a rout. Units jam the crossings. The Bannockburn turns from stream to snare. Men drown in armor. Horses crush their own. In the crush, orders die in the air before they reach ears. What was an army becomes a panic. Somewhere in that churn, Edward II nearly becomes a prisoner. Refused entry to Stirling Castle by Sir Philip de Mowbray, who knows the terms of surrender, the king flees hard for Dunbar, and then by sea for home. When the noise finally drains from the fields, Bannockburn is a geography of endings. English dead lie in heaps. Prisoners are counted in thousands. The captured horses and armor, the wagons and coin, these are spoils. But the largest treasure is invisible, a new certainty in the Scottish mind. Stirling Castle surrenders by the agreed terms. The last major English hold in central Scotland is gone. The road south is open, and Bruce will not be shy about sending raids to remind England of that fact. For Edward II, Bannockburn is not just a field, lost it is a crown bruised. His barons were already wary, now they are bold. The comparison to his father is merciless. Where Edward Thone was the hammer, Edward II becomes the man the Scots made run. The political fallout will help pave the way to baronial revolt and a king's long humiliation. In Europe's courts, ears prick up. They don't hear rebellion, they hear kingdom. A smaller nation has bloodied a larger empire. Diplomats in France and envoys at the papal curia begin to treat Scotland less like noise and more like a note. In 1320, 6 years after Bannockburn, Scottish nobles draft a letter that reads like a blade: the Declaration of Arbroath. It tells the Pope what Bannockburn already told the world, that Scotland is a kingdom, that a people has rights, and that if one king fails them, another will be chosen until the last 100 men stand breathing. It is political theater and political truth at once, and it grows from a battlefield where infantry proved they could stop knighthood with discipline and will. The most feared weapon in medieval Europe is the armored knight on a trained warhorse. Bannockburn shows another truth. A wall of men with spears, drilled and brave, can break that thunder. The schiltron is not romance. It is math, cohesion, and courage. The lesson spreads. Foot soldiers rise in value. The textbook of war rewrites a chapter, and the tactic fits the spirit. Freedom won not by brilliant single charges, though Bruce's axe makes its mark, but by ordinary men standing shoulder to shoulder, doing an extraordinary thing together. Robert. The Bruce exits Bannockburn not merely as a king with a victory, but as weather, a climate that shapes the land. Songs will make him myth. Stories will expand his silhouette. But inside, the legend stands a man who learned when not to fight and when to push exactly on ground that would do the pushing with him. The tale of Bruce splitting de Bohun's helm is not the story. It is the spark that lights the larger fire. The decision to fight only where Scotland's size becomes Scotland's strength. Centuries later, the word Bannockburn still tightens throats. Robert Burns will sing it as Scots wha hae, a voice as if from Bruce to his men on the eve. In wars and politics, on banners and in ballads, the field returns, because the field is not dirt. It is memory. And memory is a weapon. It tells each generation that scale is not destiny, that mud and marsh and mind can beat numbers, that a people kneeling together can rise together. If you strip away the armor, Bannockburn is a human story with 3 hard edges. Leadership is choosing the ground. Bruce wins the battle not on June 24th, but when he decides where June 24th will happen. Discipline beats bravado. A schiltron is not glamorous, it is steady. Steady wins. A cause multiplies men. The Scots fight for home. You can feed soldiers with bread or with belief. One lasts longer when bread runs out. That is why the field still speaks. Not because thousands died on it, but because a nation lived on it. At the end, imagine again that small horse, that narrow field, that stream turned snare. The English army is a storm. The Scots are a line. The king lifts his hand. The line steps forward. Bannockburn isn't a miracle. It is something scarcer. A plan carried by courage. The crows circle. The noise ebbs. And on that ground, Scotland bloodied, stubborn, unafraid, takes its place not as a province to be corrected, but as a people to be reckoned with.